Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Oles, president and founder here at Black Speakers Network, and we are thrilled to have you join us for the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. As we dive into our theme, progressing from stigmas to solutions, we encourage you to contribute to the dialogue by participating in the chat. Now, as you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is a time to spotlight the importance of mental health, especially within the Black community. As we come together for these enlightening discussions, we hope to raise awareness, foster understanding, and contribute to the journey of emotional wellness for us all. This speaker series is broken into 6 parts, divided into 3 sessions, airing each day. So, no matter what part you're joining us for, we encourage you to go ahead and watch the entire series. You definitely don't want to leave anything on the table. The speakers you're about to hear from are leading and emerging experts as well as advocates in the mental health and wellness space. Each speaker is also a proud member of Black Speakers Network. We will be talking about very important issues today. So before we begin, I want to ask you to go ahead and spread the word to your family, friends, people in your community, networks, companies that should be a part of this conversation. You can click the share button or simply just share the link and invite folks into the conversation. A few final notes before we get started. Number one, the speaker series is just one of hundreds of speaking opportunities shared across the Black Speakers Network ecosystem. So if you are a current or aspiring speaker looking for your next stage, I want to invite you to learn more. You can head over to blackspeakersnetwork.com/join. And on the other hand, if you are a meeting planner, conference or event organizer, or a host, and you're looking for the perfect speaker for your next event, I would love to connect with you as well. You can browse, find our online speakers directory, or submit a speaker request for your next event by using the links in the description for this video. Now, that out the way, let's go ahead and get kicked off. Thank you so much again for being here and joining us on this journey, and welcome to the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Keelan Wilson, social entrepreneur and speaker, and I'm gonna just dive right in. There's a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche that says, "He who knows his why to live for can bear almost any how." I remember being 2 months away from graduating college, and I went to the University of Texas. Hook 'em horns for all my Longhorns out there. But y'all, I was so excited, and I remember reflecting and just thinking like, here I am, a kid from the hood, raised by a single mother, the first in my family to make it to college. And now I'm about to walk the stage of one of the most prestigious universities in the world. I almost couldn't believe it. And I was even more excited to actually walk the stage because I always used to say that I was not doing this for myself. And when I walked that stage, we all graduated. We, as in my village, those who poured into me. We, as in my community, those who didn't have the opportunities that I had. We all graduated and got our degree from UT that day. So I could not wait. And I remember getting the email saying that due to COVID, your 2020 commencement is canceled. I was devastated. In that moment, I felt like everything I had put in during the 4 most difficult years of my life was going unacknowledged. As I was allowing that to sink in, I began to process that not only will I not be walking the stage, but all of my post-college plans are gone. And this hit me hard, y'all. It hit me like a ton of bricks because ever since being a kid, I always wanted to change the world. I loved serving. Me and my mom, we always found a way to give back. And regardless of what it was, if I was serving, I loved doing it. And since then, I knew that when I served, I was actually making an impact in that moment. And I was like, I've always wanted to make a huge impact in the world by doing these things. And then I actually ended up getting voted most likely to change the world in high school. And then I also coincidentally go to a university whose motto is what starts here changes the world. So as you can see in my head, it seemed like the stars were aligning. And as I was about to graduate this time, I actually felt prepared to go and do just that. I felt prepared to change the world, y'all. I had a plan and everything. So I went from having this moment of extreme clarity to being lost just like that. And I moved forward. We pushed forward. I'm a pretty resilient person, and I just continued life as usual. And the following months, I ended up graduating and moving back home to Houston. And around that time, I started having some medical complications. Ended up going to the doctor, and little did I know this was the start of a long journey of figuring out what was going on with me. I ended up getting diagnosed with having depression and being prescribed antidepressants for the very first time. And I was also diagnosed with having high levels of stress, and I was dealing with physical manifestations of the stress. So at this moment, I'm not only lost, but now I'm feeling confused. Like, these are challenges I've never dealt with before. These are things that I've never even seen, let alone experienced for myself, these mental health challenges. And quite frankly, I felt the furthest away from my purpose than I've ever felt in my life. And I remember my mom coming up to me one day as I was watching TV on the couch and just asking, "You want to start a nonprofit with me?" Then she begins to explain its potential impacts on our communities. And before she can get it all the way out, I was all the way in. She didn't have to do any convincing, because as soon as she brought up the idea of a nonprofit, a new flame sparked in me. A flame that I knew connected me back to my childhood, me seeing the opportunity to get back to my roots of service. As I mentioned earlier, I loved serving as a kid. And this was an opportunity for me to not only serve, but for me to change the world. So we started building this organization, and months later ended up being on the ground in our communities, meeting the needs of our community members. And as I continued to serve and continued to grow in my responsibilities within the org, my purpose began to get so much clearer. And then I remember intentionally shifting my focus from the things that I couldn't change to focusing on becoming exactly who I was created to be. And since then, my mental health has grown so much stronger. We've impacted thousands of individuals through our organization. My vision for the future is clear, and I know I am working in my purpose. So I'm here to tell you today that regardless of the challenges that come your way, past, present, or future, focus on becoming, and you will overcome every challenge, especially challenges with your mental health. So I want to leave you today with 3 key aspects of becoming that can help promote healthy mental health outcomes and also resiliency in your life. Number 1 is your mindset. We have to go from having a fixed mindset to having a growth mindset. And essentially what that is understanding that you can always improve. Your intellect, you can always improve. Your skills and talents, these things can always be improved. And another aspect of your mindset, we have to always have the mind or understand that we are a student to everything. Learn from every experience, good or bad. Number 2 is mindfulness. And essentially what this is understanding how you are wired. And this comes with understanding like your needs, understanding the support that you may need or the type of support. Like, for example, with therapy, there's group therapy, there's individual therapy, and there's layers in between identifying these things, identifying your boundaries, and all of these things, learning about yourself so you can become the full version of yourself. Number 3 is focus. And we have to shift our focus from the things that we cannot control to focusing on becoming who we were created to be. When you focus on becoming, that is you shifting from focusing on things that cause you to worry, focusing on things that cause you to stress, things that cause you to fear, because all of these will only lead to unhealthy mental health outcomes. When you focus on becoming, you will start to develop yourself and to develop the full and the best version of yourself so you can become that best version for you and those around you. I hope this gave you some value. And again, I'm Keelan Wilson, co-founder and CEO of A New Approach Incorporated, where we empower and equip Black and brown youth and their families who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. And I'm also a speaker. And if you would like to contribute to our mission with your time, talent, or treasure, or if you would like to just stay connected, please refer to the link attached to this video. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless.
Greetings and welcome to my session titled Reduce Stress and Energize Your Life. My name is Keisha Allen Smith, and I'm going to start by introducing myself. I am from Bermuda. I'm a mother of two, an educator, an energy healer, an entrepreneur, author, and speaker. And I am passionate about empowering entrepreneurs and professionals to reduce stress, increase their energy levels, and improve their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Now, I want you to ask yourself, is your workload impacting your well-being? Do you wish you had more energy and less stress in your life? Do you wake up mornings feeling tired? Are you physically and mentally exhausted? Have your productivity levels declined at work or at home? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to know that you are not alone. Research shows that 89% of working adults complain about stress, 63% are experiencing burnout, and 51% are experiencing insomnia. And these statistics are continuously growing. And so it's important to note this because stress has a negative impact on your overall well being. And we want to make sure that we are doing things in our lives to reduce our stress. So, what are our physical and mental and emotional warning signs of stress? These can include physically having a lack of energy, right? Finding that you're grinding your teeth at night or you have a clenched jaw, experiencing aches and pains in your body. Maybe you're having difficulty sleeping, or you notice you have muscle tension in your neck, your back, and your shoulders. You could have been to the doctor and you have high blood pressure. All of these things, plus more, are signs of stress. And then we also have our mental and emotional signs, right? So there could be you feeling anxious or on edge all the time, or feeling irritable, experiencing depression, right? Or maybe you have emotional or angry outbursts. Are you indecisive and do you have difficulty keeping track of things? These are signs of mental and emotional stress, right? And so, if we are continuously going day to day experiencing stress, it's going to lead to burnout. And when we ignore the warning signs of our stress, that's what's going to happen, right? We're going to burn out. And I always liken this to that of a car breaking down on the side of the road. Our car often gives us signs. You might see a red flashing light on your dashboard. Keep driving because you got things to do, places to go, right? You don't have time to stop and check things out. And so when we ignore these signs our car is giving us, what happens? The car breaks down, or you get up one morning, the car won't start, and now you're not able to get to where you need to be, right? And so when we burn out, we're not able to do the things we need to do. So how does stress affect our system, right? Our stress response system is part of our autonomic nervous system. And so when we're undergoing stress, our sympathetic nervous system activates. And so we become in a state of fight or flight. And when this happens, our body's preparing itself for stress, right? It's releasing cortisol and adrenaline. Our heart rate increases, our blood pressure increases, and our digestion actually begins to slow down. And when our body is in this state of fight or flight constantly, it has a negative impact on our well-being. And this is like pressing the accelerator on our car, right? So back to that car analogy. And so if we're always on the go, right, we're always pressing our accelerator, then we're always under stress. And what we want to do, we want to start to activate our parasympathetic nervous system more often. And so this is the opposite. This part of our system brings our body back into a place of rest and digest. It returns us to a state of calm. Our growth hormones and melatonin releases, which actually helps us to sleep. Our heart rate decreases, our blood pressure lowers, and our body's in a state where it can repair ourselves. So I liken the parasympathetic nervous system to applying the brakes in our car. And so our goal is to be more intentional about creating more habits in our life that activate our parasympathetic nervous system, right? So that we can restore our energy. We want to pump our brakes more often. So, one thing I love to share when I'm feeling overworked and overwhelmed, what I do is practice the 4Ds. And this helps to reduce stress in your life. So, what is that, right? To practice the 4Ds, just make a list of things you can drop, delay, delegate, and declutter, right? Once you make this list, you can begin to lighten your load, and then you find that you have less things to do and you have less stress. So, again, ask yourself, what can I drop in my life? What is it on my to-do list that I can delay? What can I delegate to other people? And, decluttering. What can I declutter to help give myself some more space and clarity? Because what we need to do once we start to decrease our stress levels, we can do a better job at managing our energy. And so let's talk about our energy bank account. Okay, so with our energy bank account, we want to make sure we are making more deposits than withdrawals. Think about your money, right? When you see that your balance is getting low, what do? You take time to manage what you're spending, right? You want to spend less and make sure you're making more deposits. Same thing with our energy. Even looking at our cell phone, right? When we notice our cell phone battery or life depleting, what do? We take time to recharge it so we can restore it. So let's treat our energy like we treat our money in our bank, and let's make more deposits than withdrawals. When you think about your own life, ask yourself, what is your energy bank account balance? And you might notice that you may need to start making more deposits. So let's look at our physical energy, right? When you think about your physical energy, some of the common ways we make withdrawals are we take our health for granted, we work too long, we don't sleep well, we lack exercise, and our diet is unbalanced. With our physical energy, we can make deposits by eating healthy, exercising, making sure we get enough rest, doing breathing exercises, and even taking short breaks during the day. For our mental energy, right, you may be making too many withdrawals by being too addicted to technology, trying to multitask all this time, answering your emails even after the workday is done, right? And how can we make some deposits? We can slow down and practice some mindfulness, make to-do lists, set boundaries, and learn to say no, right? Journal and get some of those things that are in your mind off your mind and onto paper. Then we look at our emotional energy. Maybe you're feeling stuck, right? Or you're lonely, or you're overreactive to situations, right? Maybe you're noticing that you have elevated stress levels. Well, how can we help ourselves emotionally? We can use affirmations. We can take time for self love. We can practice forgiveness and let go of some things that we're holding on to, and even engage in positive self talk. And then we look at our spiritual energy, right? And so maybe you don't feel connected to that which is greater, or you're unclear about your purpose in life, or you're always distracted. What can we do to help this? We can express gratitude, connect with nature, pray and meditate, and even ground ourselves. We want to do these things because we want to be intentional about making more energy deposits than withdrawals so that we can reduce stress and energize our lives. For more information or to even take a free energy audit for yourself and your own energy levels so you can gain awareness of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy levels and deficiency, visit my link tree at Love and Light Empowerment. Okay, you can also scan the barcode on the screen. And this tool will help you to figure out where you are because our personal energy is renewable. And by fostering simple habits and rituals that help us to replenish our energy, we can boost our overall well being, right? We can bring our battery back up. Put a power half hour in your life, okay? Take a half hour each day. Could be a morning routine or a nightly routine, and do some things that can bring energy deposits into your life, right? These activities can be simple and you can make them happen and you can make changes to your life. So, in the end, what do we want to do to reduce stress and energize our lives? We want to be intentional and make small changes to our daily, weekly, and monthly habits so that we can have a huge impact on our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well being. So, remember, if you change your habits, you change your energy, you can change your life. Thank you for participating in my session. Again, for those free tools, visit Linktree Love and Light Empowerment. You can email me at any time. Find me on Instagram at Keisha Empowers, or Facebook or LinkedIn at Keisha Allen Smith. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. My name is Kelvin Young, and I'm a certified sound healer and co-founder of Soul Care Love. I'm also a recovery sports specialist, and I bring sound healing to different inpatient units at a psychiatric hospital here in Hartford, Connecticut. But one of the most important things for me to share, because I think it's important for me to share, is that I'm also a person that's in long-term recovery, which means I haven't used alcohol or any other drug to deal with my own mental, emotional distress since March 6, 2009. And for me, after many years of battling with depression, anxiety, and drug addiction, I found freedom from alcohol, from marijuana, from cocaine, from heroin, and even prescription opiates like Oxycontin, Vicodins, and Percocets. And for me, I began that healing journey in a drug treatment program within prison. And it was within that prison program that I learned about the transformative powers of yoga, meditation, sound healing, even creative expressive arts like poetry and journaling. And I had a lot of misconceptions about yoga, about meditation. And to be quite blunt, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. I didn't see people of color, especially black men, practicing yoga, meditation, sound healing, particularly at that time. So I really didn't think it was for me. But I know the things I was doing prior to going to prison, it wasn't working for me no more. So I had to try something new. I had to try something different. And by stepping out of my comfort zone and utilize practices like yoga, meditation, sound healing, even creative expressive arts like poetry and journaling, allow that for it to be a vehicle for me to go within. Because I truly do believe that healing begins from within. I was able to find that sense of calmness and inner peace, even being in a very hostile and restrictive environment such as prison. But most importantly, I was able to understand the root causes of my experiences with addiction. And from my lived experience, I learned that it was the unhealed emotional pain that I experienced in my life, the unprocessed trauma that I endured from childhood, from adolescence, as well as adulthood trauma, as well as the toxic chronic stress. All of that was at the root of my addiction. So for many years, I reached for something outside of myself to find that sense of relief from that distress. And for me, I found it in alcohol and other drugs, and it worked for me for a while until it didn't work anymore. And I got caught up in that very vicious cycle of addiction. But I wasn't able to see that cycle that I was in. But the people that truly cared about me, had my best interests at heart, which was my family, they was able to see that very vicious cycle that I was in. But today I could sit here and say I'm grateful for all of my experiences in my life, even my experiences with addiction, as well as my experiences with incarceration. Because if it wasn't for those experiences, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. Now, I love to share a poem that I wrote while I was in a drug treatment program in prison. That was very therapeutic for me to write then, and it's very therapeutic for me to recite it at this moment. And the name of the poem that I wrote while I was in a drug treatment program in prison is called Eyes of a Silent Sun. Look into my eyes and tell me what you see. Is it a lost soul with no control, trying to be free? As I look into the mirror and stare into my eyes, I see all the anger and the self-hate, hypocrisy and lies. I see resentment, frustration, embarrassment, and pain. I see jail bars and the fancy cars as I cruise down memory lane. I see the feelings I repressed, going back to childhood. I need to let go of those feelings. I would if I could. I see the hurt that I caused to the ones I love the most. I see my brother on his wedding day as we celebrate with a toast. I see the good and bad times that I experienced in my life. But it's so hard to let go of all that bitterness and strife. There's a sense of sadness when you look into my eyes, like the ones you see when a close relative dies. But this death is not physical. It has to do with the soul. It's that morbid feeling we get when our spiritual energy is low. It's like nothing matters anymore, like that day when I was fired, feeling depressed and weak, can't sleep, but I'm so tired. I'm tired of all the pain, the hurt, and the rain, from that cloud that keeps following me. Sometimes I think I'm insane. But when I look out the window and see the beauty of the lake, it reminds me of good times, like when I was 9 and things were fine. And with the sunrise, I can feel the presence of the Creator. When I look out my window, I see me in the beauty of nature. I'm a part of God's creation, nature, and humanity. The love and spirit that's in Jesus is also in me. So I learned to love myself and others just for who we are. I learned all about this love looking out my window with jail bars. And for me, I learned about love in a very unusual place, in prison, behind bars. And by practicing meditation and sound healing, and allow that to be that vehicle for me to go within, I was able to see the shame and guilt that often keep people like myself in that very vicious cycle of addiction. But also was able to move past that shame and guilt and connect to the true essence of who I am. And I believe the true essence that each and every one of you are. That essence I'm talking about is that unconditional agape love. Now for me, love is more than a human emotion. I believe that love is a vibration, it's a frequency. It's also our natural state of being. So once I was able to understand that the same loving divine essence that created the sun, the moon, the stars, all the beauty of nature, it created me, it created each and every one of you. And that allowed me to shift the way I see myself, the world, and the people in it. Because I believe healing is all about positive change in our life. And I believe Albert Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. So if I want to find recovery, find sobriety, I had to shift the way I see myself, the world, and the people in it. So therefore, once I was able to do that and start looking at myself from a different perspective, healing started to happen. But oftentimes our traumas, our poor choices we made in our life, all these different things, makes us feel so disconnected to that inner love that dwells inside of each and every one of us. And by going within and practicing sound healing, allow that to be that vehicle for me to connect it back to that inner love. I was able to share that love that I had within inside of myself, not only to myself, and with other people. And sound healing has been very instrumental to really helping me to sustain my sobriety for over 14 years now. And sound healing is one of those practices that help us to calm our minds, to relax our bodies, to nourish our souls. And the meditative sounds are used during a sound healing session. It promotes healing from chronic stress, muscle tension, physical pain that we feel in our bodies, feelings of anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, sleep issues, and different other stress-related chronic health conditions that we experience in our life. So I encourage each and every one of us today to take care of our well-being, whatever that may mean for you. Whether you're practicing sound healing or yoga or meditation, spending quality time out in the beauty of nature. I think nature is one of the most underutilized antidepressants out there. But whatever it is, I encourage you to continue to take care of yourself. Because I believe that self-care is a form of self-love. And when we do the things that honor and nurture ourselves in a holistic way, meaning mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as well as physically, it's a true act of self-love. Because when we take this time out to relieve stress, to find that inner peace and balance, We can rationally respond to situations instead of emotionally reacting to them. And I know when I emotionally react to things, I say things and I do things that I later regret. But when we're less stressed and more relaxed, we think clearly, make better decisions and choices that resonate with our greater good. We're able to strengthen our immune system, decrease our heart rate and our blood pressure, gain more mental clarity and insight. We're able to tap into the love, the peace, the happiness, the joy that dwells inside of each and every one of our hearts. All we need to do is take the time out and simply just be, knowing that that inner peace and the unconditional agape love is our natural state of being. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. The light in me honors the light in each and every one of you. Ashe.
I am bigger and stronger than any addiction that I ever have to face. Thank you, Brian J. Oles and the Black Speaker Network, for allowing me to speak on your platform as important as this is. I appreciate it. So, back to that affirmation. I am bigger and stronger than anything I ever have to face. That's a doozy. What did I have to face? Alcoholism. Alcoholism was my addiction, but abuse was my pain. I used to live with my parents and I used to have my own place. So I would leave my parents' house from Friday to Sunday drinking by myself in a dark house, windows closed, and sit on the floor and watch a Tyler Perry play. And that play was I Could Do Bad All By Myself. And it was this one song that always got me was, I feel like a motherless child. And her words were, I'm far, far away from home. And that's how I felt. Why couldn't I just go home? And why couldn't I just speak? Because I didn't know how. Because before those affirmations came out, I had another one that was fueling my insides, fueling my mind. And that was, it is your fault. It is your fault because it is your fault that you were raped. It is your fault that you was molested. It is your fault. Somehow I had a twisted narrative about my pain. And the fact that I did so made me so angry that I lashed out at those that I love. I didn't know how to speak. A speaker don't know how to speak. I used to love to write. I stopped writing. For some reason, I felt like my power was taken away from me. And it was because the way I spoke to myself. Can I ask you, how are you speaking to you when trauma hits or pain hits? How are you speaking about yourself in that moment? I heard a pastor preach about crazy faith, how faith makes you look crazy when you step out on it, or ugly faith, how ugly it will look. It's not going to look all pretty when you step out, when you're trying to do things right, because you keep falling. But I kept saying, I am bigger and stronger than any addiction that I ever have to face. That's much more than drinking. I know that now. And I want to share with you that message that no matter how much you fall, that you could get back up, that you are indeed bigger and stronger than any addiction that you have to face. I am a living testimony to that. I've been tested. I've been tested through so many different trials. To get on here and tell you in this moment, and who knew I was going to tell you, because I didn't want to speak about it. I used to write about everything else but my traumas. I had the nerve, I wrote this book, and I wasn't going to let it go to press. And then weeks later, or weeks before my book went to the machine to be printed, somebody I knew, daughter, committed suicide. I knew then that my story isn't for me. So whoever is listening, I pray that this touches you, or that you're able to share with someone who may be struggling with something. I want them to know that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, that they can get up, that the destination of where they are now is not their final destination. They're just passing through, because they are indeed bigger and stronger than any addiction that they have to face. So during my travels and my time, I got, first, the relationships that I experienced, I had these relationships that was covering up my hurt and pain. And I didn't know then, but what I used to say was quite dangerous. So I had this one relationship. He physically abused me. So I looked for the next bigger and dangerous person to be with, so that they would cover and protect me from that person. And that person emotionally abused me. And I went to the next person. That person was bigger and more dark, I want to say. But he protected me, because when I was dealing with alopecia, he went with me to the stores. He went with me to the store to find wigs, right? Who wouldn't go? You wouldn't love a man like that? But can I be honest with you? He's the same man that said, once we get married, I'm allowed to put my hands on you. He's the same man that picked out clothes for me and told me I couldn't wear certain things to work or outside unless I was with him. It was in that moment that I had to find out who I was and whose I was. That wasn't no man, no relationship bigger and better than the one who created me. And I'm saying the same thing to you. You are so much worthy. You are beautifully made. Even I look back now with how things are on social media, with all these filters. Young girls going to get their whole body reconfigured just so they could look a certain way on social media. When everybody's using filters, nobody's look like what they really look like in person. And they also got this filter where you now can look like you're in a wedding dress. Listen, I hope you're listening. Don't ever envy folks about the things that you see on social media, because you might really get who they really are behind those filters. You may not be able to walk their shoes. You see, when you want something or when you envy something, you're not going to get the mask. You're not going to get the filters. You're going to get what's behind the scenes. And the world already has one of them. We need you. The world will be lost without you because your testimony and your witnessing is going to help someone else along the same journey that don't know how to get up. So we need your word. We know that I know that you have something powerful and great inside of you. And I want to say thank you again to Black Speakers Network for allowing me this opportunity to share my testimony with all of you on today. Thank you and good night.
Hi, my name is Krystal Jackson and I'm a licensed professional counselor based in Connecticut. I help people get real about self-care, improve their mindset, and feel better about their life journey. Today I want to talk about how to have a healthy mindset as an entrepreneur. As we know, entrepreneurship can take us on a journey where the challenges can sometimes feel more impactful than our successes. And in order for us to feel more of these successes and to celebrate them, we really have to work on our mindset. I want to tell you guys a story. I've been an entrepreneur for about 5 years, and almost 2 years ago, I went full-time in my business with my group mental health practice. And I will tell you that first year, I was just surviving. I knew what it was to run the business as a solo, but to hire people, that taught me it was a different level. And so I began to notice how my life was changing. I had the freedom and flexibility that I wanted, but it also came with a lot of responsibility. Responsibility on how I managed my time, on how I formulated my team, on hiring, and on never-ending tasks that felt like. And about a year into it, I did find my way, but it took me navigating through a lot of comparison. I had saw what I perceived to be a lot of successes within my friends and my colleagues who had similar professional paths as I did, and I internalized that as I was failing, when in actuality, I was finding my way on my journey. And I'm grateful that I had a really good support network, but also that I learned over time how to be more compassionate with myself. And so what I want to share with you is how you can use the AIM approach to having a healthier mindset. First, we have to notice our awareness. We have to become more aware of the type of thoughts we're thinking. Are we feeling good about ourselves at the end of the day? How are we interpreting, how we're dealing with the different challenges that may come up? What are we saying to ourselves when there may be challenges? What are we judging ourselves on? How are we critiquing ourselves? But also, what are the ways that we can be more kind to ourselves? And having that awareness will help us to be able to, the next part is identify the thoughts. Are they helpful or unhelpful? We need to know and recognize the patterns of our thinking so that when these type of thoughts come up that are not so helpful, where we maybe are not speaking to ourselves as kind or as compassionately, we can more quickly recognize them and begin to understand them and move towards more affirming ourselves and being more compassionate on the journey. I'll be honest with you, a lot of times as an entrepreneur, our thoughts can be trash. We can go all day. Our mind is always moving and spinning and thinking about new creative ideas and different ways to structure things and different products or services we want to sell. And sometimes we can become so inundated with those thoughts that we forget that we need to have some time to ourselves, that we're still a human being. And so as we become more aware of this and we identify what these thoughts are, I want to encourage you to start with a simple check-in. Check in with yourself at the start of the day and several other times during the day as a way to anchor yourself, to ground yourself down, and to get out of the clouds and the anxiety of the daily responsibilities that we have. By checking in with ourselves, we can begin to see, do we need a break? Are we feeling overwhelmed? How are we doing? Are we powering through, or are we going beast mode? Is it working for us? I love incorporating self check-ins because I think that gives us an opportunity to be more introspective and also to be more present with what's going on in our daily lives. The last piece of this is learning how to manage your thoughts. 80% of our thoughts are negative and a lot of them are repetitive. So I would bet you if you felt like a failure in one instance, it's more likely than not that you felt like that in similar instances. And our brain has already connected those things. So we have to recognize how certain situations may be triggering for us and may cause us to feel out of sorts. And by doing that, by having that awareness and identifying those things, then what we're able to do is give ourselves the opportunity to figure out how can we navigate them. So that now when you are, maybe payroll is coming up or this big opportunity is coming up, right? You know what to do to help care for yourself because you've been there before. I want to encourage you to release the criticism, the judgment that comes with being an entrepreneur, and to be more compassionate, because guess what? You are creating a new thing. You are doing something different for you and for your life that's going to be hopefully so impactful to other people. And I think sometimes we forget that when we're in the monotony of the day to day. And so I want to encourage you to take aim, to be more compassionate. One of my favorite practices to do is to use song lyrics as a way to affirm myself. You've probably seen this all over social media, on my mama, on my hood, right? Take a song lyric or your favorite scripture or your favorite mantra and recite them to yourself throughout the day. Paste them places so you can visually see them as reminders to get your mindset in the right place, in a place of compassion and not a place of critique. Mindfulness will help to carry you throughout this journey, and it also will help you to better understand yourself. I will say I know myself so much better during this journey because of the things that I've been able to quickly problem solve, and how I've been able to be resilient, and how I've been able to tap into my support network and to learn what my threshold and my capacity is. So I want to encourage you today to take aim for your mindset, to realize that it's not about the perfection, and there will be days when you don't feel good. Take yourself a break and then get back to it. And with that said, I want to invite you to connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at I am Krystal CJ. That's Krystal with a K. You can find me as well over on LinkedIn or on our website at simplybeingcounseling.com. Hopefully these tools were helpful for you, and I hope to hear from you or connect with you soon. Everybody take care.
Hello, I am LaQueshia Clemons. I am a financial therapist. I'm based out of Connecticut. I help individuals and couples understand their emotional and behavioral habits when it comes to money. Today, we are going to have a presentation on our money stories, rewriting the narrative on your relationship with money. Have you ever found yourself struggling with hitting your business or personal money goals? Have you ever found yourself in a constant money cycle and you're not sure how to break it, whatever that may look for you? Well, today we're going to talk about why some of those things may be occurring why you may not be able to hit some of your financial goals. So a money story makes up our thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors when it comes to money. Your money story is usually created as a child and you bring it into your adulthood, which is why they say a lot of the times our money habits we learn from our parents or our caregivers, and we take that into our adulthood. So today, I really want to focus in on limiting limited beliefs. Have you ever said to yourself, I'll never be successful, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, people won't buy from me, people won't think that I'm good enough for them? Those are what we call limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are these negative thoughts or beliefs that we have about ourselves, that we'll say to ourselves, that actually stop us from achieving the goals that we want or living the life that we want to live. So a lot of times when we have those limiting beliefs, those tend to come from something that it could have happened in your childhood. It could have just been your upbringing. It could have happened, it could have been a serious event or incident that occurred, and that is why you have a limiting belief. So they usually stem from somewhere, and when you start to write your money story, it's important to figure out where those limiting beliefs from. And when you find out where they stem from, then you're able to break it. The first step in rewriting our money story is being aware. And that is why I think it's so important for you first to go back and write what your current money story is. We need to be aware of our actions, be aware of how we are doing when it comes to money. Ask yourself, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep ended up in the same cycle? What is happening that I am missing? And what may have occurred, or how did I handle money as a kid? What did I see when my parents or caregivers were talking about money? What patterns or themes are coming up when I sit back and I actually look at how I handle money? Once you're able to do that and you're aware of your money story and how it has an effect on you, you're then able to change that and start to rewrite your money story. One of the first things you're going to do is look at your values. Your values are so important when it comes to rewriting your money story. So when we look at values, you look at what are those things that mean the most to you, whether that be your family, whether that be quality time, whether that be work. What means the most to you? And now let's start rewriting that. So now we're going to look at values. If family is your values, how do they align into your money story? Okay, I love to spend time with my family, and so if work is your value, how does work align with your money story? An example of that may be you want to climb the corporate ladder. So that is something you value, is working hard so that you can climb that corporate ladder. And that's okay. So to do that, what does that look like for you so that you can continue to hit your financial goals? Is another value maybe vacations. If you enjoy taking vacations because that's something you truly value, how does that align with your financial goals? How do you make that work so that way you can continue to stay on track? Another thing that we need to do, so the second thing is that we have to continue to educate ourselves around our money, personal finance. When we continue to educate ourselves, we're continuing to educate ourselves to gain money confidence. When we have money confidence, we'll continue to hit those money goals that you are trying to hit and that you want to be a part of your money story. So continuing to educate yourself around money, whether that is through a podcast, through reading a book or a Kindle, or even some YouTube videos. I mean, you definitely have to do your research and be very, very careful with what you select online, but you can definitely educate yourself around money in a lot of different forms. And the last thing is please be committed to the change. This process is not a fast process. You know, it did not take you very quickly to write your current money story. So you have to take the time to be committed to this change and put in the work that you are looking to get. So my name again is LaQueshia Clemons. Again, I'm a financial therapist. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, themoneytherapist_1. Feel free to also visit my website, www.freedomlifetherapy.com. You can get all my contact information and send me an email on my website if you feel free to do so. If you have any questions. This was great. Take care. Bye.
Welcome to the Black Mental Health Virtual Speaker Series. I'm Quay, and in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you my 3 most favorite mindset hacks, because we know as entrepreneurs and business owners, the most important thing that takes us to the next level is our mindset. First mindset, then money. Quick introduction. I'm Quay from Las Vegas. I run a consulting company here. I am a U.S. Navy veteran and a former corporate citizen, 17 years in corporate America. I have a handful of degrees and I'm certified in 4 different coaching modalities: personal development, mindset and performance, executive leadership, and NLP. And out of all of those, mindset is my most favorite because mindset is the root of all success and of all failure. And believe it or not, mindset is the root of all happiness and all stress. And we know that stress is a major component of our mental health. So I like to say that mindset measures our mental health. And if we think about our mental health, the health of our mind, like our physical health, the health of our bodies, we have physical fitness to help us stay physically in shape and healthy physically. So therefore, we need mental fitness to help us stay in good mental health shape. And mental fitness is basically your capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than negative mindset. That is what mental fitness is. So when we look at this picture, we can see that these 2 guys, I'm sure you saw this before, 2 guys on a bus. These 2 guys are definitely responding to life challenges differently. One has a positive mindset, they're looking out the window. The other one has a negative mindset, assuming they have nothing to look for when all they have to do is turn their head. Now, I believe that every single entrepreneur and professional can increase their mental fitness. They can improve their mindset and have better overall mental health. And I know you're asking, why does it matter? Why spend all this time on mental health and mindset? The reason is because money, success, and opportunity are all attracted to a certain mindset. Those things are not attracted to a person with a lazy mindset or a procrastinating mindset or a mindset full of limiting beliefs, doubts. Money, opportunity, and success, those things are attracted to a person with a very certain mindset. First mindset, then money. And now that you know that the mindset is first, and that is what we need to improve to go to the next level, I know you're asking, okay, how do I improve my mindset? How do you improve your mental fitness? I could tell you affirmations, meditations, the softer side of things. But what I want to do today is talk about the science behind mental fitness. These different disciplines were studied and synthesized, and these are some heavy hitters here. And they came to the conclusion that improving mental fitness is 20% insights and 80% new habits. So 20% insight, that's new knowledge, like the stuff you're going to learn today. This is 20% of improving mental fitness and driving change. The other 80% is you creating a new habit. And a lot of times we go to workshops, seminars, motivational speeches and things like that, and we take great notes and we have all the information, and but it doesn't stick. The motivation doesn't stick. The dream fizzles. The excitement evaporates. And that's because we forgot to create the 80%, the new habits that sustain the change. And so today, I'm going to help you build some new habits. I'm going to show you 3 easy mindset hacks that will help you easily develop and improve your new mindset. And this is even if everything right now is hard. If life is just super hard, if the layers of life are just getting heavy and they're dimming your flame, it doesn't matter. These mindset hacks are so simple and so easy, they can help you change things just like that. So we're going to use these mindset hacks to turn all your stress into success. And this is going to help you attract things for your highest good. More money, more opportunity, more growth, more expansion, the good stuff that we want more of out of life. So mindset hack number 1. When things get hard, I want you to think about this statement. Where there's hard, there must be easy. Now, this is the law of polarity. Think about this. Think about your problem, issue, situation, event as a little bubble, right? This little bubble, there's a positive and a negative to everything in life. The law of polarity teaches us that. That's the law of life, nature, the universe, whatever you want to call it. But even the tiniest little atoms in your body have a positive and negative charge, right? The positive charge is easy, the negative charge is hard. So therefore, when we think about mindset hack number 1 with this visual, where there is hard, there must be easy. Absolutely. Mindset hack number 2. I hope you're writing these down, friend. So mindset hack number 2. What's the best thing that can happen? Now, this comes from positive psychology and positive perspective. What's the best thing that can happen? Because things are going to happen. You ever heard of Murphy's Law? What can happen will happen. That is true, my friend. I promise. And so most of our life, we've been conditioned to hope for the best and plan for the worst. Not anymore. We are going to prepare for the best and plan to work around the worst. That is what we're going to do. Because the worst, maybe not the worst, but something that look like the worst, that may happen. And what we have to do is be ready to work around the worst. You have to be prepared for that. So with mindset hack number 2, we have to ask ourselves, what's the best thing that could happen? And that will definitely shift your perspective and shift your mindset so you can start getting closer to solutions that'll help you meet your goals. And mindset hack number 3. This is actually one of my favorites. Nothing is good and nothing is bad. Everything is a gift. So my late great mentor, Bob Proctor, he taught me this. And he says, Quay, whenever anything happens, something happens, everything's happened. It just is. But based off the lens that you're looking at it, depends on if it becomes good or bad. So when a situation happens, it's not good, it's not bad. It just is. And until we apply our perspective on it, then it becomes a good thing or a bad thing. So you actually have control and power over if something is good or bad. But nothing is good or bad. Everything is a gift. I have to look at things when things go wrong, because they do. I say, where's the win? Where's the win within? There has to be a win in this, because I know in my heart that everything is a lesson or a blessing. And sometimes problems are opportunities in disguise. So we have to be prepared and have the right perspective on things so we can see the win for ourselves in there. So remember the science. These new insights that I've given you that you've written down, these are great, but you have to build these new habits. So when things get chaotic, because I know they will, even when you're in traffic, things are going to get chaotic. You now have a new habit that you can launch so you can have better results. So you can have a better mindset and a better perspective and start attracting those opportunities to you. If you're in a bad mindset, do you think that someone's going to partner with you or work with you? Do you think that money's going to fall in your lap or be attracted to you? If you're in a bad mindset, if you're being lazy, procrastinating, doubting yourself? No. First mindset, then money. So friends, here are the mindset hacks, all three of them. Take your phone out, take a picture or screenshot it on your computer so you can save it for later, so you can start building those habits to create the change in your mindset that is going to help you get to your highest good. And before we close today, guys, I really want to give you the opportunity to connect. So here is my social, my email, and my LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. You can scan the QR code and connect with me directly. And if you don't remember anything else from today's workshop, friends, I definitely want you to remember that mindset impacts your mental health and your wealth. Wealth is attracted to a certain mindset, friends. So get that mindset together. First mindset, then money. I'm Quay. Thank you so much, friends.
Hello, my name is Rachel Daniels, and I am the owner of Consulting and Counseling with Rachel, a private practice in Mississippi serving college students and professionals for culturally and trauma responsive, inclusive, preventative mental health care and wellness. I've been practicing social work for 20 years, and I am also a trauma-informed yoga and meditation teacher, field and adjunct instructor, and I provide trainings, workshops, and presentations online and in person, both locally and nationally. I am so excited to spend a few minutes with you today as we ignite a conversation about burnout, defining burnout, outlining some symptoms and risk factors, offering hope for recovery, and empowering us to believe that we can work together to enhance our protective factors and prevent burnout. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with me. I appreciate you so for being the core of who you are and extending your potential to the world in the things that you do. So let's begin. In setting our foundation, let's consider that burnout is specific to the work or occupational context, and burnout can occur in any profession. No one is immune from the potential of experiencing burnout. It is not a personal failure or a character flaw. Some believe that burnout happens in stages gradually. The good news is that by understanding it this way, we can catch it early by noticing the impact for ourselves or anyone that we supervise. And all agree that the deep impacts of burnout do not have to be a requirement in our work. So what is burnout? Burnout happens when we experience excessive, prolonged, unrelenting, or chronic occupational stress. We have all likely heard that long-term stress is bad for us. Have you taken the time to non-judgmentally And curiously, consider specifically the workplace stress you face. Do you know when you are in a stressed state with work and when you are not? Have you considered the length of time that you have been in a stress state? The ways that you are attempting to manage and cope with your workplace stress and the emotions connected? You may pause here to consider these questions if you'd like. Burnout occurs in prolonged stress when the energy needed to fulfill our job demands are imbalanced with the mental, emotional, and physical resources and supports needed and time to recover. When we think about it, it makes a lot of sense if I am not able to maintain gas in my system, keep my battery charged, or keep my cup full, that my flame will eventually burn out. We can't give what we don't have when we are depleted. Either we acknowledge this or our body forces us to. One study found that 60% of US workers report that they have experienced burnout. In order to provide for our needs, many of us have to work, and we may be employed in or interacting with exploitive, oppressive, or discriminatory systems that blame us individually for our normal human response to high stress levels. Burnout is our body giving us data, a sign that I am overstimulated, something important in life is not working, something needs to change, and as a means of protection and survival, I am headed to shut down. Burnout shows up in and as occupational, physical, psychological, behavioral, emotional, spiritual, social, or relational signs and symptoms. Our stress response in our body releases chemicals to prepare us to act. If these chemicals are released for prolonged periods of time, they can harm our body. We may be having trouble with sleep, having changes with our eating, getting sick more often, have high blood pressure, severe muscle tension, gastrointestinal issues, or autoimmune conditions. Our emotions may be blunted, or we may feel angry, irritable, or anxious. We may feel unhappy with work. Our work operations and systems may become neglected, or we may be disorganized. We may have decreased professional performance, loss of motivation, or even contemplate quitting our job or the work that we're doing. We may feel physically and emotionally exhausted, causing us to disconnect or distance to cope with the overload. And we may defensively cope and become apathetic, cynical, rigid, or lose hope. We may withdraw from social and family time, avoid decisions or communication, see negative impacts in our important relationships, like with our significant other or children. We may use substances like alcohol or cigarettes, overeat, gamble, game, social media scroll, or use sex as unhealthy means of relief. Burnout can look similar to depression. The way we can understand the difference is by understanding the reasons the symptoms developed. There are online screenings available that we can take to assess our risk level, or we can see a medical or mental health provider by searching specifically for this specialty in online directories. I recommend that we screen ourselves annually because it can be hard to recognize burnout when we're fully in it. The important thing is to remember the signs and symptoms are cues to make a change. Our body is telling us we can't keep doing the same thing. So don't ignore, suppress, avoid, or numb the signs and symptoms. In many ways, our society, our workplaces maintain our risk for burnout by promoting, glorifying, or rewarding with praise and promotion those who self-sacrifice, self-suppress, and neglect our needs. Those who never take a vacation or switch off, take on more workload than sustainable. Those always saying yes, even if the work is not values connected or a good fit. Working long hours with little pay or having unreasonably high productivity expectations. For people of color, we may be working in high-stress workplaces while also existing in a world that is overwhelming. Or we may feel the impact of our body being in some of our workspaces where there is harassment, discrimination, oppression, inequality, racism, classism, gender bias, sexual harassment, homophobia, or transphobia, causing us to feel alone. Within ourselves, we may hold limiting occupational or financial beliefs, try to live up to unrealistically high expectations imposed by society or ourselves, and try to prove ourselves. We may lack healthy workplace boundaries, find value in giving to others with no recharge or recovery, just pushing through. If you believe that this connects with your current experience, I want you to know that you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with the core of you, and recovery is possible. Burnout does not go away on its own, though. We have to address the underlying cause. What is my body and behavior trying to tell me? We have to replenish. Chronic stress cannot be our normal. Thinking preventatively, we want to consider how we engage our workplace culture as one of a care with policies that promote wellness, protective factors, and resiliency to maintain positivity, enthusiasm, inspiration, joy, and passion in our work connected to our values. We want to consider our habits, responses, and mindset, our perceptions, our beliefs, and our expectations. Am I learning and growing? Is my stress level reasonable? Do I have time to relax, rest, and recover? Am I engaging in hobbies, good sleep patterns, nutrition and hydration, regular exercise, expressive activities, meditation, and mindfulness? Am I taking breaks throughout the day and true vacations? Self-care is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Am I fulfilling my needs and energy, work-life balance, maintaining my boundaries and sense of self? Do I have support, reciprocal relationships where I maintain connection, can get help, process my experiences and emotions? A community like Black Speakers Network. Remember, burnout is something that we can be aware of, but do not have to have as a requirement to sustain a living. Follow me on social media at rhdlcsw.com. or email me at rachel@rhdlcsw.com. Take care and good luck. Bye now.
Hello, my name is Dr. Tracy Crump from Tracy Crump Enterprises, LLC, where I help students and educators clarify their goals and resources, sharpen their skills, and empower them to strive for success. I am an award-winning university faculty member of almost 2 decades. I'm also an attorney and Amazon and Ingram Spark best-selling author, but I'm here today because of my role as a domestic violence advocate for over a decade. Today, I will be discussing protecting your mission without sacrificing your well-being and providing self-care strategies for social justice and social service practitioners. In this vein, I will explore the interrelationship between social justice and social service and vicarious trauma. I will also discuss the impact secondary trauma and compassion fatigue can have on social service and social justice practitioners. And then finally, I will share some strategies social justice and social service practitioners can use to combat and manage vicarious and secondary trauma, as well as compassion fatigue. I am a teacher at heart, so I want you to make sure you have your writing utensil and your note paper, and you're ready to write down your 3 takeaways from today's presentation. Mahatma Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." And day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, social justice and social service practitioners answer this call. Those who are medical personnel, such as doctors and nurses and surgeons and personal support workers, provide life-saving measures to those who are in need. Mental health practitioners, such as counselors and therapists and social workers, show up and meet people where they are and provide services and resources to help them navigate the contours of life. And then we have our first responders, those people who show up in spaces and places that many folks can't, at times when people need their advocacy. Police personnel, military personnel, emergency dispatchers, and rescue workers are the people we call when we are in dire need. And then we have those practitioners who serve as teachers and lawyers and clergy and journalists and child protective service workers and humanitarian workers and social service advocates. They are there championing the cause of people who cannot exert their own agency. These social service and social justice practitioners show up every day. They are people who work to achieve political or social change. They advocate on behalf of people who cannot advocate on behalf of themselves. And this just isn't on one level. They work to provide safe and secure housing, food, and healthcare on the self-advocacy level, the individual level, and the systems level. In many cases, they are the people who are able to exude empathy and show their capacity to understand others' feelings and experiences from their perspective. So they don't just interject themselves. No, they actively listen and critically assess in order to provide needed resources to their clients and those they serve. But sometimes this advocacy could result in them having negative outcomes. Sometimes social justice and social service practitioners could experience vicarious trauma, secondary victimization. They could have compassion fatigue or secondary traumatic stress. Those suffering from vicarious trauma and secondary victimization, they experience the residual impact of being exposed to the stories and experiences of those who share those stories and experiences. And this could result in a replaying of those stories and experiences in their mind and a preoccupation with traumatic stories. Or they could suffer from compassion fatigue and secondary traumatic stress. These are more insidious stressors. They don't happen immediately. They have a gradual progression, a gradual lessening of the compassion they have for those they serve. And over time, it could result in internal turmoil. I know. I have served as a service transport provider, as a medical center security officer, as a teacher and an attorney, and as a domestic violence advocate. And in those roles, I was faced daily, weekly, monthly, yearly with the stories and experiences of the people I serve. And in many cases, I was able to provide necessary services and resources. But sometimes, for me, that was not enough. Sometimes I felt as if I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't moving fast enough. I wasn't going far enough. And so I did what I knew how to do. I wrote about it. I interviewed those advocates who came before to find out what their game-winning plan was, to create our own game-winning plan. I interviewed those who were survivors of abuse, and I asked them what it was they needed and how could we help future survivors. You see, when you are an advocate, you want to serve. You want to help. And sometimes that could take a toll. It could result in behavioral challenges, such as changing jobs frequently or experiencing uncharacteristic tardiness or absenteeism. It could result in being angry or irritable or being overworked and exhausted. You could have negative talk and conversations with yourself or avoid being alone or rejecting closeness. In other situations, service personnel could experience physical or cognitive impairments. They could have pain or aches or increased sickness as a result of a decreased immune system. They could start to minimize trauma and normalize certain negative conditions. They could also have an increase of self-doubt and a lack of concentration. They could be confused or disoriented, have racing thoughts, lose interest in activities they love, or they could have negative ideations, thoughts, and behaviors. They could also experience emotional and social negative outcomes, They could feel helpless or powerless or feel numb in certain situations. They could be oversensitive or be emotionally unpredictable. And they could experience severe sadness or depression. They could withdraw and isolate from society, experience loneliness, have a decrease in their trust level, project the blame of situations on others, or be enraged when they hear the stories and experiences. And then they could be hyperprotective over the people they love and those to which the care, custody, and control are entrusted in them. But it doesn't have to be that way. You see, social justice and social service practitioners, they have tools. One of the first tools is that of self-observation. Get in tune with yourself. Know when something just isn't right. If you feel something is amiss, check in with yourself. We can engage in mindfulness and self-care techniques, whether that is taking a deep breath, sitting alone in isolation to get your thoughts together, journaling, listening to music, exercising, eating healthy foods, whatever it is for you, engage in mindfulness and self-care. We can also have a realistic outlook on the services and resources that we are able to provide. As a social justice or social service practitioner, I know you want world peace. You want to change the world. You want to ensure that everyone is able to exert agency and everyone has their needs met. But if we were to have a realistic outlook, social justice and social service practitioners, we work together as one to make incremental change for the better. We can also understand when we need to take a break, whether it is a short break or a longer sabbatical. If you need the time, take the time and rely on your colleagues and peers for support. They are there to help you navigate the contours of the work you do. They can provide critical feedback if you also provide a critical incident debriefing. Let them know what you're going through, what you're feeling. Share, when you are able to, the stories and experiences that were shared with you to find a solution to ensure that you are managing your mental and emotional health. And finally, social justice and social service practitioners can seek professional help. Seek that help when you need that help. Dr. Maya Angelou said, I learned a long time ago, the wisest thing I can do is be on my own side, be an advocate for myself and others like me. Social justice and social service practitioners, I want you to know that we see you. We salute you for your service, and we want you to know that you matter. Full stop, period. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself, because if your mission is to help those you serve, you must first put the oxygen mask on yourself and take care of you. What are your 3 takeaways? Write them down now for yourself or for the social justice or social service practitioner in your life. And if you'd like to stay in touch with me, I am Tracy G. Crump on LinkedIn. You can also reach me by visiting my website, tracycrumpenterprisesllc.com, to find out more about my services and what I am up to. Or if you have a question, comment, or concern, you can reach me at hello@tracycrumpenterprisesllc. Take care of you. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Tawana House. I'm the founder and CEO of Beacon of Hope Champions Ministries, LLC. I'm here to present Bridging the Gap, Your Mental Health and Spiritual Growth as part of the Black Mental Health Speaker Series, Black Speakers Network, BSN. Our presentation overview: purpose, what is mental health and mental health conditions? Are religion and spirituality the same? The role of spirituality and religion in Black mental health, benefits of mental health for spiritual growth, barriers to mental health and spiritual growth, spirituality treatment and mental health conditions, key points to remember, and contact information. Purpose. to investigate the role of spirituality and religion in promoting mental health and well-being within the Black community, to focus on the importance of an individual's mental well-being essential for spiritual growth, to learn how spirituality and mental health are connected, and to discover how spirituality can have a role in an individual's mental health treatment plan. So what is mental health? Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. What is a mental health condition? Mental health conditions are also referred to as mental illnesses, are medical conditions that can disrupt a person's thinking, moods, ability to relate to others, and perform daily functions. Statistically, 1 in 5, that's 20%, U.S. adults experience some form of mental illness in a given year. 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by age 14 and 75% by age 24. 35% of Americans say mental illness could be overcome with Bible study and prayer alone. 90.4% of African Americans reported use of religious coping in dealing with mental health issues. And 1 in 2 people who use mental health services find religion or spirituality helpful to manage their mental health difficulties. So are religion and spirituality the same? Religion based on a system of beliefs, practices, and rituals to worship a supernatural being. Spirituality tends to focus more on a person's quest to understand life's meaning and purpose, as well as their connection to other beings, nature, and something bigger than themselves. So what is the role of spirituality and religion in Black mental health? A connection to faith has long been recognized as having a deeply profound impact on emotional well-being. Literature suggests that African Americans are much more likely to rely on their faith as a coping mechanism for dealing with depression and anxiety than they are to utilize a mental health professional. In other words, many African Americans, rather than seeking support in the form of a mental health professional, go to church. So spirituality involves practices and behaviors to improve emotional well-being and support your mental health, such as prayer, meditation, faith, mindfulness, and other coping practices. There is evidence that individuals with high levels of spirituality tend to have better mental health and quality of life. Over time, through their practice, they develop ways to help them better cope with adversities. Faith can help us in many ways that traditional treatments can't. It helps to make sense of our suffering and gives us strength to persevere through hardship. Faith leaders are most frequently first responders in mental health crises, especially in communities of color. And faith and spirituality connects with a community that cares. Many turn to their faith community when they are in a healing crisis because they are often more available, noticeable, and accessible, and are also viewed as a safe space for support. So your mental health and spiritual growth are 3 things together. 1, they're connected: spirit, soul, and body. Soul being our mind, will, and emotions. Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 30 presents 3 types of relationships that affect all humanity: their relationship to God or your higher power, their relationship to others, and their relationship to their environment. Studies have shown that there is a close relationship between spiritual health and mental health. Your mental health and spiritual growth are also essential. Having a healthy mentality is essential for spiritual growth. Being mentally healthy is a necessary requirement, not a sufficient requirement, but a necessary requirement for a person to have spiritual maturity. And mental health and spiritual growth are a part of achieving wholeness as a human being. You can't demand holiness from someone who you are not willing to love into wholeness. Bishop Anthony Gilliard, jurisdictional prelate of the Southwest Florida Church of God in Christ. What are the benefits of mental health for spiritual growth? A healthy balance of your whole being builds inner spiritual strength. It's better understanding of biblical or spiritual principles for life application. It improves your ability to grow and maintain healthy relationships. It helps to manage anxiety and stress or other mental conditions. And it also helps you to establish a self-care practice. What are some barriers to mental health for spiritual growth? Pray it away. A lot of people think that if you just don't use prayer alone and you go get help from a doctor or a mental health professional, that it shows you have a lack of faith. But the truth is that prayer in itself is not the answer to every problem, but it's through prayer that you find the wisdom and guidance you need to take action to help your problems. Just like the woman with the issue of blood, the biblical story found in Luke chapter 8, verses 43 through 48. She had an issue of blood for 12 years. However, with all the action she took to seek after doctors and not getting a resolve, she took action in her faith to believe that Christ could be the one to heal her infirmity. Stigma, over spiritualizing and demonizing someone with a mental condition. Stress and anxiety, associated with someone who thinks their mental condition is a result of a spiritual issue. It's questions asking like, where is God in this? Why do bad things happen to good people? What have I done wrong? How can my faith help? Where is God in this? What is next? And how can I cope and manage? Then there's pride, not willing to accept they have an issue, don't want to be perceived as having a weakness because they have a mental condition. So, what's the role of spirituality as far as your treatment for mental health conditions? Spirituality, augmented cognitive behavior therapy, evolves including spiritual values and cognitive behavior therapy that focuses on acceptance, hope, achieving meaning and purpose, and forgiveness. It also includes spirituality and religion as part of your overall mental health plan. So here are some key points to remember. There is a difference between mental health and mental health condition. Religion and spirituality are not the same. Religion and spirituality are recognized to have a deep, profound impact on emotional well-being. Faith can help in many ways that traditional mental health treatments can't. Your mental health and spiritual growth are connected and essential. Praying in a way is not enough. Take action. Don't view mental illness as a spiritual weakness, and include spirituality and or religion in your mental health treatment plan. Here is some of my contact information for you if you'd like to find out more about Beacon of Hope Ministries, LLC. I am on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. Thank you all for joining me for this presentation on Bridging the Gap, your mental health and spiritual growth. I hope it'll be helpful to you in your lifelong journey in healing and maturity.
Greetings. My name is Tyrese McAllister, and I am super excited to be able to come on today. First, I want to thank Brian Oles and the Black Speakers Network, one, for giving me an opportunity to share information on something I am super excited to share with you. Second, I want to thank BSN for hosting an event where you get to learn more about mental health. Well, it is May 2023, and we are right in the midst of Mental Health Awareness Month. Why am I super excited about this? Well, for 30 years, I've been working emergency mental health. That means I was treating people who had who experienced psychiatric crisis and traumatic events in the community. I've done that for 3 decades, and I just can't get enough of talking about mental health and wellness. Now, while my primary role was to treat people who were experiencing crisis, what I really learned is that when we take care of ourselves on a regular basis, when we engage in self-care, when we're on top of our mental health, when we prioritize our mental health as we do our own physical health, then when a traumatic event occurs, because they will occur, then we are so much better prepared to deal with them. So I want to talk to you quickly about coping with traumatic events. Now, why did I pick this topic? I chose this topic because we all just came out of COVID and we all survived it, thank God. But I don't know if you can remember about 3 years ago when COVID first hit, it was traumatic. Some of my friends were losing their minds, being stuck in the house, being anxious about catching COVID. Many people lost relatives as a result of COVID. For many people, COVID was a traumatic event. Now, if you watch the news, you see that people are experiencing traumatic events all the time. And honestly, I sometimes have to turn the news off because I am absolutely traumatized, I am absolutely traumatized with the amount of violence that I am exposed to, even in the news. So let's talk about what a traumatic event is. Trauma or a traumatic event is when a person experiences a psychological injury. Now, it could also be accompanied by a physical injury, but traumatic event is when someone is experiencing something that causes them a psychological injury or pain, sometimes a near-death experience, and the person doesn't actually have to experience it. They could experience trauma by hearing about it and or seeing it, especially if it's somebody close to them. It can also include a sexual injury. It could be as a result of a natural disaster or even violence. So that is what trauma is. Some common reactions. First, I want to say that we have normal reactions to abnormal events. Some of the things that occur should not occur. We should not have to deal with gun violence. We should not have to deal with sexual assaults or other violence towards us. So those are abnormal events. And when we experience those are normal reactions to abnormal events. Sometimes people have cognitive responses such as confusion, memory loss, or painful memories. Sometimes people blame themselves. Sometimes people experience relationship problems. They might be short-tempered, have poor frustration tolerance, and not really able to deal with people. Oftentimes people like to isolate and kind of be to themselves and have trouble getting along with people and maybe feeling connected with people. Now, again, these are normal reactions to abnormal events. Sometimes people might find themselves crying or feeling numb, not even being able to cry or emote. Again, normal reactions to abnormal events. I want to give you just a few tips on how people can recover from traumatic events. Let's go. So one, rely on resources. There are lots of resources in the community like mental health providers, crisis centers, police departments have help. A agency like the American Red Cross is another community resource that helps people when a natural disaster comes. They come into a community and they provide resources. SAMHSA is another one. They provide resources during natural disasters, helping people with insurance claims, getting money for their homes, temporary housing, and things like that. So there's usually lots of resources. One thing I suggest is get familiar with resources in your community before you need them. So in our community, we can always call 311, and that usually connects you to the local government agency that usually can provide information in a crisis for what you need. The second thing I want to say, and I say this to most of my clients, be patient with yourself. Give yourself some grace. Grace is extremely important. Oftentimes when people experience a trauma, they think they should get over it quickly, and they're really hard on themselves when they don't. Sometimes people blame themselves, and blaming yourself does not help anyone. Right? So there's some things that people can do, like remind yourself that what you're experiencing is not only temporary, but it's a normal reaction. The other thing I want to say is taking care of your body. Now, we underestimate if this is a psychological injury, why in the world would we need to take care of our body? Well, one of the things, how we take care of our body affects our moods. We need to make sure, especially in times of crisis, that we eat well, exercise regularly, and maintain a stable sleep schedule as much as possible. minimize alcohol and caffeine and other substances. Now, Bessel van der Kolk wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, and Body Healing Trauma. This is an amazing book. This book talks about how trauma is worn in the body. So I give you an example. I wear my stress right here in my shoulders and in my neck. When I'm extremely stressed, I can absolutely feel it. So on a regular basis, I get massages to work out those kinks, right? I also try to do stretches throughout the day. I stretch a lot more when I'm working in a period of high stress. So take care of the body. We only get one. Now, the other thing is connecting with family and friends. Very, very important. A lot of times, traumatic events make us want to isolate and stay to ourselves. We want to be able to connect. Connecting with family and friends help keep us grounded. One thing I want to say too is avoiding exposure to the media. Repeatedly watching bad things or sad things on the news, especially if it is related to what we're experiencing, we want to be very careful about that. Now, years ago, we would just say, don't watch the news, turn the television off. But social media also carries a lot of news. Twitter, Facebook, people post a lot of information. So even social media, we might want to turn that off. And then last but not least, I'll say consult with a professional. Now, of course, I'm going to say that I'm the professional you could see, but let's think about a professional that really understands trauma, has interventions that can help you cope with and recover from traumatic events. Also, the benefit in speaking to a therapist is that they're not going to tell your secrets. They're not going to judge you, right? So friends and family are great, but a therapist or a psychologist or even a psychiatrist may be a good opportunity to, work some stuff out. Now, a psychiatrist is a person who will prescribe medication. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes medication is indicated. So especially when people cannot sleep, people find trouble having an appetite and can't keep meals up, or if they're having some somatic events like a nervous stomach or migraines. You want to consult with either a physician or a psychiatrist that might be able to give you a temporary medication to help you take the edge off while you're still working out coping strategies with your therapist. Now, this is a small public service announcement to just say that we all at some point in our life are going to face a traumatic event. I mostly work with police officers and other first responders, and the statistics say that police officers experience up to 900 traumatic events over the course of their career, a 25 to 30-year career. That's a lot of trauma. Now, the average person doesn't experience that amount of trauma, but we need to be able to take care of ourselves. One of the things that I learned is knowing about the resources and being prepared in my mind about traumatic events has really helped me overcome lots of things that could have been much more traumatic for me had I not had resources. So just a friendly reminder that trauma does happen, but we want you to keep yourself safe. We want you to keep yourself safe and well, even during times of high stress and traumatic events. Again, I'm Tyrese McAllister. I am the owner of Clinical and Forensic Associates, and I appreciate your time and listening. Thank you. Have a great day.
Today we're going to discuss unintentional harm when family culture perpetuates intergenerational trauma. So let's get into it. The topics that will be covered briefly are culture passed on, trauma is relative, epigenetics of intergenerational trauma and family lineage, changing the narrative, and culture evolved. According to Martin and Nakayama, culture is the learned patterns of perception, values, and behavior shared by a dynamic group of people that are dynamic and heterogeneous. So when we think of family culture, we tend to think about culture as a race, but being that Black individuals were brought through the transatlantic slave trade, we tend to think that, well, do we really have culture? And also, too, we tend to associate culture with holidays, what we do when our families gather together, and things of that nature. But what if we were to look at how families talk loudly or how family uses jokes as a means of socialization? What if your family having alcohol at every family event, or the fact that grandma and them drank and smoked regularly? And so what do we do? Would you view that as family culture passed down from generation to generation? When I think of family culture, I tend to think of the phrase, the apple does not fall far from the tree, which is a proverb that shows that we are the fruit of our family tree. And so as we begin to discuss this, I want you to keep that in mind as you're thinking about not just yourself, but the branch, the extension of yourself when it comes to family culture and trauma passed on. According to Dr. Peter Levine, in his book, Healing Trauma, he indicates in one of his chapters that trauma is relative to the perception of threat. So as we think about trauma and family culture, we have to think about stressors and levels of stressors and how that is reflected in each generation. Because trauma is not linear. And according to neuroscience, it is indicative of the body's ability to process significant stressors. So one family, what might be a stressor may not be in another family. And we'll get a little bit into that with a story that I have. But not everyone experiences a significant stressor will eventually develop a trauma response. When we think of trauma, we also auto-assume that PTSD is associated with war veterans, car crashes, and natural disasters. But what about the kindergartner who woke up in the middle of the night and heard her parents arguing? Or the mother who suffered from a mental health diagnosis that adversely impacted her ability to be present at home? Or the family who drinks and engages in substances because it's the family norm. When we think about trauma, we don't associate this as a significant stressor because it is a part of family culture, but also too is perpetuated generation after generation. That mother who suffered from a mental health diagnosis might be neglectful to her young children inadvertently, unintentionally, but from there, that child is reared to be disconnected and disassociated from her kids, his or her kids or their kids as they advance and grow in age. So, epigenetics and intergenerational trauma. According to Skinner, 2008, and Peng et al., 2017, intergenerational epigenetic inheritance represents the transmission of epigenetic marks from one generation to the next, which is the passage of information from a grandparent to a grandchild. Is instead defined as transgenerational, so across generations. And so when we think about the trauma we've experienced right now in today's day and age, it transcends to our grandparents, our great grandparents, who developed these markers as a form of protection. Trauma responses is a form of protection for survival of the fittest. And so in the Black community, when we think about the transmission and the transference of generational trauma, there are things that tend to perpetuate it, such as the phrase of what goes on in this house stays in this house. And so, for instance, I've had clients who discussed having significant trauma responses related to family perpetrators of sexual violence, attending family cookouts and the expectation that we're supposed to attend, that perpetuates leaving the victim to navigate life with unresolved trauma and retriggering them at each encounter. And so the victim becomes a parent, and that parent rears their child through instances of trauma perceived as personality development. And it is exhibited as low frustration tolerance, possible inability to sustain a healthy relationship, resulting in attachment issues, feeling disconnected through disassociation, impacting the child who may develop a reactive attachment disorder due to an inability to connect with their child. So These are different nuances that our families pass down to us as a form of protection, and also to protect our family name. So where do we go from here? Changing the narrative. So currently today, when you think about yourself and your trauma experiences, those things that we tend to acknowledge as personality traits, but maybe they're survival traits that have been passed down genetically. Looking at this this meme, it is, how do you change your past? And so in this, it has a indicator of um, a grandparent, a parent, an adult child, and then their generations following. The individual with the shield has built awareness that the verbal accosting that was experienced and maybe was the norm in the previous generations, for whatever reasons, was passed down. They saw that this was not functional for them. And so in order to begin to change the narrative, we have to build awareness. And I encourage you to complete a genogram. A genogram is a family tree on paper, and in it, it assesses mental health, education, abuse, divorce, marriages, and the gamut. It can go on for however intricate you want it to be, but it paints a picture of what is passed down through generations. And from there, you can identify family patterns of behaviors that might be worth exploring and extrapolating or pulling out and uprooting. And ultimately, once realizing those maladaptive behaviors of trauma that were perceived as family culture, seeking therapy to support building new processes to teach the next generation. So what does this look like? I've been talking about epigenetics. I've been talking about culture. I've been talking about changing the narrative. But going back to trauma, it is rooted in our history, and it has become a part of our genetic makeup. Trauma's response is for survival. What happens when the culture passed down is no longer serving us well is a question that we need to ask. At one point in time, these behaviors were supportive. And I know that's hard to think when we think about trauma, but again, remember that trauma is our body's way of protecting itself. And also, too, as human beings, as mammalian individuals, it is to help our lineage last. So what happens when it's no longer serving us well? And though supportive, let's just say the abuse our predecessors inflicted on family was tough love, to teach family members to stay in line as to not get killed by their slave masters. Or maybe the drug and alcohol use that was utilized to reduce emotional impact of negative life experiences were utilized to prevent imposing those negative instances on others as a means of getting away. Or what if the anger that has been centered down, like my grandmother was angry, my so-and-so was volatile, was a defense mechanism to prevent from being an easy target by either the police or the Ku Klux Klan. Our family culture is rooted in trauma, when looking for survival is the foundation of trauma responses. But now that these methods are no longer serving our families well, this requires a rewiring of our genetics. This takes time through generation, and as the photo shows, one person must recognize that the culture can no longer be passed down, and it is time to find more healthy and productive ways to support the family survival through family lineage work. And so I ask you, what small change will you make to evolve your genetic composition? I am Anisha Grady, clinically licensed social worker in Cleveland, Ohio. And if you would like to learn more, you can contact me at info@2020lifecounseling.com or visit my webpage at www.2020lifecounseling.com. I am open to other speaking engagements around this topic of family culture and intergenerational trauma. Have a wonderful day.
All right, and there you have it. Thank you so much again for joining us for this session of the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. Now, remember, this is just one session of our 6-part series, so be sure to tap in for all the remaining sessions. To make it easy, you can just subscribe to the Black Speakers Network channel on YouTube. Be sure to hit that notification bell and be the first to know when future sessions are shared. I think it's safe to agree that the insights, experiences, and expertise shared today by our speakers in the mental health space have been nothing short of enlightening. So I want to thank all of our speakers once again. As we close for now, remember that the conversation doesn't have to end here. We encourage you to take these conversations, these thoughts, these ideas, go back into your communities, into your companies, and continue the conversation. As you have heard earlier, the speaker series just represents a small fraction of the wealth and the opportunities right here at Black Speakers Network. And so if you are a current or aspiring professional speaker and you're looking for your next stage, look no further. I invite you to join the Black Speakers Network community. You can get more information at blackspeakersnetwork.com/join. Now, if you are a meeting planner, you're a conference organizer, you have an event coming up and you're looking for the perfect speaker to impact your audience, again, look no further. We would love to connect you. You could browse our online directory of speakers right now at blackspeakersnetwork.com, or you can submit a speaker request and we will make sure you are covered for your next event. That's live or virtual, or in person or virtual. But that is it. Goodbye for now. And thank you once again for joining the Black Mental Health Speaker Series.